Hello, everybody. This is Mike Orshan, and today we have Nancy Millar and Steve Elanius
of McAllen, Texas.
And Nancy, and then Steve, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, this is Nancy Millar. I am the Vice President and Director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau for the McAllen Chamber of Commerce. I've been living here in the Valley now for about 24 years.
And I'm Steve Elanius, and President and CEO of the McAllen Chamber of Commerce. Been in this position for about 9 years. Came to McAllen from the Texas Panhandle, and came to McAllen because of just the unprecedented opportunity for growth and development as far as the community and what was happening along the border with Mexico.
Well, I did a little bit of reading before talking to you, and I was really surprised to see the growth in McAllen. I had heard it, but when you start reading the numbers, number 1 in job growth in 2005, number 7 in entrepreneurial hot areas, number 8 in income growth in the entire United States. What is going on there?
Well, obviously, Mike, some of the key things that are happening is location, location, location. And obviously, Mexico plays a big part of what's happening with the economy here. Over 35% of our retail trade comes from Mexico. And recently, the Census Bureau just released the growth from 2001 through 2006, and McAllen had a 20% growth in population. And so there's a lot of good things happening in the area as far as population growth, as far as economic activity. We're seeing lots of investment coming in here. Probably on an annual basis for McAllen and the 4 cities surrounding it, well over $250 million a year in new construction investments coming in to the area. So we're very fortunate in terms of what's happening with the economy.
In a previous interview, I read that 42% of everything that Texas makes is sold to Mexico. Do you have an idea of what that is?
Well, this is the front door for Mexico. If you look at the total numbers you mentioned in terms of what we're exporting, it's probably close to $50 billion annually.
And I would add to that according to Visa credit card, there is more Mexican money spent in McAllen than there is in any other city in the entire United States, including all the major markets. So a lot of the money is retail. A lot of the visitors that we have are coming from Mexico. They come here and they spend, they buy their clothing and other supplies and then go back to Mexico. So we are a huge #1 shopping destination for the entire country.
Absolutely. We spend a lot of our time marketing in Monterrey, Mexico, which is, you're looking at a city that within the city limits of Monterrey, a little bit over 4 million, and the Monterrey MSA probably close to 7 million. And we spend a good portion of our advertising dollars in the Monterrey market targeting the higher iconographic areas of that city.
And we're only 2.5 hours by car from Monterrey, so it's an easy trip for the folks who live there.
With all this growth in McAllen, what's happening on the other side of the border? Are we seeing the same growth, or is McAllen teaming with people with groups over there? What's happening?
Fortunately, that old saying, a rising tide raises all boats, and Reynosa is McAllen's sister city across in Mexico. They have the fastest growing city in Mexico. They also have one of the fastest growing economies. And so we're really benefiting from both of us being successful, and it's very much a symbiotic relationship with Reynosa. So as McAllen's being successful, Reynosa is successful, and vice versa.
On the Mexican side, is there labor that comes across to McAllen on a daily basis?
Yes, surprisingly, my director of finance lives in Reynosa and drives across every day and works here at the Chamber of Commerce, and she's from Canada. So that gives you an idea of how international McAllen is in terms of people, whether they're from the U.S. commuting over to Reynosa to work in the maquila industry, or people coming from Reynosa over here to work on the U.S. side.
Is this just a one-time place and location, or does McAllen have a message to tell other areas?
We like to think that we have a strong message to sell. This community has had a history over, McAllen's almost 100 years old now, has had a history of trying to position itself to do the right things to generate economic opportunity. For example, we go back to the 1933, and the City Commission decided that the community needed to establish sister city relations in Mexico. because Mexico was seen as a viable partner for this region. So starting back as far as 1933, Mike, we've had sister city relations in Mexico.
That there should be a northern bloc, something similar to the European Union in between Canada, United States, and Mexico. And the reason they say this is because they want a combined amount of funds to help underdeveloped areas in all three countries and begin fighting the Chinese and the Singapores and Malaysias of the world who are taking a number of jobs away. In your area, you've been able to do that without that, or maybe I'm wrong. How much investment has gone on to get everything going?
Well, obviously NAFTA, which passed in 1994, played a huge role in both Canada, the United States, and Mexico's success. Obviously, you have the Canadian, the U.S. government, economy is a world-class economy, and Mexico has been, in essence, a second world economy. They continue to grow. You see the emerging, now within the last 5 years, we've seen the emerging of a very strong middle class in Mexico, which bodes well for the United States and Canada, because that means that there's going to be more retail goods, consumer goods purchased, and a lot of the issues that you see in Mexico that we see people complaining about in terms of out-migration of their people from Mexico coming into the United States, we suspect probably in 10 to 15 years that's going to stop or slow down almost completely.
In our view, in Marsound and everybody we've talked to, the view is if we do economic development, we don't have to worry about immigration, drugs, and violence. Are you the genesis of that? Are you the beginning of that? Are you the model? Or is there something that the Mexican government has to do? How does it get started because you're successful, or does the Mexican government have to do something to make this happen?
Since 1994, the Mexican government has done a lot of the right things. They have changed their monetary policy. They have changed their investment strategies. They're doing things that are going to foster economic opportunities in Mexico. We're seeing the fruits of that even today, and we anticipate that getting even stronger over the next 10 to 15 years. And so I think Mexico is doing lots of the right things. And I know, people get excited about the illegal immigration issue and the challenges that poses for our country. But I think some of these things are going to naturally work themselves out. And I think, Mike, there's going to come a time when we're going to be begging for people to come to this country and to work.
I don't want to talk about a wall as a way to stop immigration, but I would like to hear a little bit more on what happens if they build a wall in your town.
Well, there's a lot of serious repercussions that would happen. One of them is environmental. This area down here is the #1 destination in the entire United States for bird watching. It's also the #1 destination for butterfly watching, and that's something that's growing in popularity. What it would do is destroy the habitat, devastating effect on the environment. And what that means economically to us right now is $125 million. Then there's also, of course, the side of it as far as what it will say to our neighbors. Obviously, if we build a wall, it's not going to be taken kindly. So this is going to have great impacts on any kind of public relations and economic bridges that we've started to make.
We really are the front line. Our school districts, our hospitals, our government, the taxpayers, we understand the impact that illegal immigration has and what it means in terms of dollars having to be spent on illegal immigrants without destroying our local economy and without hurting relationships with Mexico.
Well, thank you for your time. And thank you in the audience. Please add comments. And this is Mike Gorshan at Marsound, www.marsound.com. Talk to you soon.